Is an Iran-US war imminent? Will things get worse than last year? We're asking those questions because both America and Iran, as of now, are saber-rattling, digging in their heels on their demands and also warning of dire consequences. With jets, warships and missile threats. Let's start off with Iran. Tehran sounding the alarm. Its military leadership, in fact, is issuing some of its strongest warnings yet, saying any American strike would trigger a full-scale response on land, at sea and in the air. Iran is saying any American attack would trigger a regional war. Senior Iranian military officials saying U.S. bases across West Asia would be within the range of Iranian missiles and drones. Iran army spokesperson, in fact, has said Iran has ordered its forces to respond instantly to any strike. He says delays are no longer acceptable, warning that any conflict would not end quickly and would engulf large parts of West Asia, including Israel and countries hosting U.S. forces. Now, these warnings are also coming as America continues to expand its military presence across the region. In Israel, a U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyer has anchored in Israel, Israel's city located on the Red Sea coast. And the ship adds surface-to-air defense capability to Israel's missile shield. As per analysts, it is designed to help intercept any potential Iranian retaliation if Washington authorizes strikes. Now, Israeli officials are saying during last year's 12-day war, their missile defense systems intercepted about 86% of the incoming ballistic missiles. But then questions still remain about interceptor stockpiles after heavy use. On America's side, its naval presence, including land-based power systems and additional naval assets, intended to strengthen the regional air defense. At the same time, the head of Israeli military intelligence has visited Washington to deepen military coordination in the event of a war. Beyond the naval deployments, in fact, the U.S. is also preparing for more covert options. An aircraft flew from Britain to Azerbaijan, reportedly. The aircraft is designed for special forces infiltration and extraction missions. And officials are saying one option under consideration, reportedly, is a commando operation targeting remaining elements of Iran's nuclear program. President Trump, for that matter, has been cautious about deploying ground forces after past failures, including the 1980 hostage rescue mission. Another option being reportedly discussed is targeted strikes against Iran's senior leadership, including the supreme leader. Meanwhile, Iran is rejecting any pressure on its military capabilities. The country's foreign minister has said Iran's missile and defense programs are not negotiable. He says Tehran is open to talks only if the negotiations are fair and conducted on equal footing. He confirms no meeting is currently planned with the U.S. officials and says preparatory work is required before any dialogue can resume. Iran's president, meanwhile, has also said nuclear talks will not begin until Washington drops what he calls belligerent threats. At the same time, Iran's judiciary chief also has warned European countries will face consequences after the EU designated the Revolutionary Guard a terrorist organization. Iranian officials are saying they may respond by blacklisting the European armed forces. Senior Revolutionary Guard commanders now claim Iran's military is stronger than it was during last year's conflict. And they are saying readiness levels have improved and that Iran tends to emerge more powerful after wars. Diplomatic efforts are continuing meanwhile behind the scenes. Turkey is attempting to mediate reportedly between Tehran and Washington. The country's foreign minister saying restarting nuclear talks is vital to prevent escalation. And he has urged the United States to resist pressure for military action. And in Israel, public messaging has also remained restrained. Officials have avoided openly calling for war, but analysts are saying there are concerns about the sustainability of Israel's missile defenses in a prolonged conflict. Now, for President Trump, the decision ahead carries major risks. Recent military operations in Venezuela and earlier strikes on Iran have reinforced his belief in swift, decisive action. But then experts are warning a conflict with Iran would be far larger and harder to contain. And it could also trigger widespread retaliation across multiple countries and draw in regional allies. With Iranian forces on alert, US and Israeli defenses reinforced, diplomacy somewhat fragile, and military options also expanding. The standoff as of now is entering one of its most dangerous phases in years. And the next moves from both sides could determine whether this crisis turns into conflict or returns to the talking table. And switching gears, the Russia-Ukraine war, in fact, has reached a chilling stalemate as temperatures plunge well below zero. Now, President Trump has announced a breakthrough, claiming his Russian counterpart has agreed to a week-long pause in the aerial bombardment. But then, will this halt actually change things on the ground? What are they looking like? Let's take a look.
The guns never truly fell silent. For 4 years, Russia's war against Ukraine has been a merciless grind. Cities shattered by drones, missiles and glide bombs, power grids smashed, millions plunged into darkness and cold. Now there is an unexpected twist. US President Donald Trump says he personally asked Russian President Vladimir Putin to halt strikes on Kyiv and other cities for a week amid extreme cold. Putin, Trump claimed, agreed to the request.
And because of the cold, extreme cold, they have the same that we do, I personally asked President Putin not to fire on Kiev and the cities and towns for a week during this. It's extraordinary. It's not just like cold, it's extraordinary cold, record-setting cold. Over there too, they're having the same. It's a big pile of bad weather, the worst.
In Kyiv, temperatures are plummeting toward -30°C, infrastructure crippled, millions across Ukraine are without heating. Russian strikes on energy systems have been devastating, cutting power to homes and hospitals alike. Ukrainians are wary if the pause would last.
I trust neither Putin nor Trump, so I think that even if Putin complies now, he will stockpile missiles and will still keep firing. Putin's goal is the destruction of Ukraine, and all we can do is resist.
This year is the coldest, the most difficult and the coldest. Our heating in the hall depends on electricity, since we have an electric boiler. That is, if there is electricity, we have heating. No electricity, no heating.
The Kremlin says Putin agreed to halt attacks on the capital until February 1st, and Russia confirmed a pause in bombing of the city. But official Moscow statements have been cautious, with limited detail and no broad ceasefire terms released. Ukraine says it would take corresponding steps if Russia truly refrains from targeting energy infrastructure. Despite the announcement, Ukrainian air defense forces reported continued Russian drone and missile strikes, though mostly along frontline positions rather than deep into city centers. In this harsh winter, a week of quieter skies may offer precious breathing room for civilians and negotiators, but without a comprehensive peace deal, the conflict could erupt again at any moment.
On Gravitas Snapshot tonight, we are putting the spotlight on Eileen Gu. Who is she really? A teenage prodigy who flew higher than her rivals, a global celebrity in ski boots, a young woman trapped between two superpowers perhaps, or an athlete whose flips and spins on the show have created news far beyond the sport. She burst onto the global stage as a teenager, winning 2 Olympic gold medals and a silver at the Beijing Winter Games. But more than her achievement, the loudest noise around her was not applause, it was debate, not about her talent, but about her passport. Born and raised in San Francisco, she began her skiing journey representing the United States, and then in 2019, she made a major decision that changed just about everything for her. She chose to compete for China, her mother's homeland. 3 years later, she became the face of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, delivering medals for the host country. Now she once again steps into the spotlight as China's biggest sporting star ahead of the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy that start next week. And once again, questions surrounding her nationality are in the spotlight. She says the focus over her nationality saddens her. She insists that she skis for the sport and not for politics. And ahead of yet another Olympics, she is in rich form. She just recently created a record in the sport with her 20th career World Cup win.
Skier with 20 World Cup wins. It sounds pretty unbelievable to say. I think what I've come to realize is that it becomes exponentially harder with each win. And so to carry that pressure and to let it drive me instead of letting it crush me has been a journey.
And off the slopes, let's tell you more about her. She studied at Stanford University. She models for luxury brands. She has a large social media following while remaining a billboard icon across Chinese cities. In fact, she was the 4th highest paid woman athlete last year. In China, fans call her the Frog Princess, a nickname that she got for wearing a green helmet. But the admiration also comes with suspicion to some extent. Some question her loyalty. Others scrutinize her choices, her injuries, even her training budgets. But she points to athletes representing countries beyond their birthplace for decades, across various sports. Her aim is to grow the sport and inspire more people. She stands decorated and she stands at the center of a modern Olympic dilemma. But then in the end, she also remains one thing beyond dispute, a talent on the snow, to say the least, with expectations and also controversy all at once. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.